to Jasmine Hirsch. Jasmine, thanks for being here. Your dad is one of the pioneers here. I think when Ted mentioned the first 4 vineyards, yours was probably one of the 4 that he was thinking about. And your family has had a commitment to this area for multiple decades, and you've brought a wine that I'm particularly fond of, so thank you. And tell us a little bit about your estate and your family and what we're tasting in this wine.
Good morning, everyone. It is really something else for me. I feel really humbled to be a part of this panel and to think about the history that my father has with quite a few of the people that are on this panel. Before we ever made any wine, we sold all of our grapes, and a big part of why people know Hirsch Vineyards is because of those incredible winemakers like Ted Lemon and Aaron Jordan and Catherine's father at Kistler when he was at Kistler. So it's all connected. My dad went out to what we now call Fort Ross Seaview in 1978. He was looking for a place where he could hear himself think. He was not looking for a place to plant a vineyard. And he bought a 1,000-acre sheep ranch because nobody wanted to be there. It was incredibly cheap because this was not a viticultural region yet. So he was able to buy this, large piece of land that was completely undeveloped, or almost completely undeveloped, for next to nothing. But after he bought it, he realized that the land needed so much work. It had been clear cut. There are still pockets of redwood, but most of the trees were long gone by the time my dad came there. And it had been overgrazed. It was a sheep ranch and a cattle ranch. So he actually planted vineyards as a way to have a source of income to fund the ecological restoration of the land. But you have to be careful what you start, because he got pretty distracted by the vineyards. So he put his first vines in the ground in 1980, and they're own rooted because he didn't know he was supposed to use rootstock. He really knew nothing. Yes, he was a pioneer, but he was sort of wandering around in the wilderness. And for the first 15 years, roughly, he sold his fruit to, for bulk wine, like to Jackson family and so on, to Kendall Jackson as he calls it, because that's what it was called then. But in 1994, he received 3 phone calls within the space of a month. One was from Catherine's dad, Steve Kistler, Ted Lemon, and Bert Williams, one of the founders of Williams Cellium. And get this, these 3 guys were in a tasting group together. How cool, how amazing that must have been. And anyways, they'd heard about this crazy nut out on the coast and said, we gotta go see this vineyard. And they all started buying grapes from my dad in '94 and designating the vineyard on their labels. So we started making our own wines in 2002. My father is a diehard farmer. He's not a winemaker. He likes to insult his winemakers by saying, the yeasts are the real winemakers. They'll say that in front of their faces. But he built a winery really to become a better farmer. So, we've talked a lot about the ocean. My dad would say that even more important than the ocean to defining our site is the San Andreas Fault, which you can see the line on the map if you look closely here. We're about a mile, half a mile from the fault line. So we have this wildly complex geology at Hirsch, and our 72 acres are divided into about 60 farming parcels, each of which we farm individually. And my dad said, well, I want to taste them all. I want to take that information. Of course, the true feedback from farming wine grapes is the wine. So he said, I want to make wine the way I farm. So each of those little parcels is vinified individually, which is fun, makes my life interesting, and definitely from a farming perspective, it's very challenging, but really stimulating, and there's always something new and different and interesting to see and learn about and learn from the vineyards and from the wines. So out of that, terroir exploration of 45 years, you could say, this wine, the Raschen Ridge, was revealed to us, you could say. And I think the process and the respect and the low intervention winemaking that a number of us have talked about today is so important to unveiling terroir, because you don't know if it's there. We're the first people to farm grapes on this land, so we have to figure it out. We have to listen. My dad always says, if you have a question, ask the vineyard. So these vines my dad planted in 2002. It's a little tiny narrow ridge right behind our winery. We're in the top left here, and it's sort of like a Goldilocks soil structure. It's got great rock content, but it also has a lot of soil, which holds moisture and nutrients, but the rocks allow the roots to go very deep and great drainage. And I think that these vines, they're 20 years or so now, they're just coming into this beautiful maturity. It's high elevation, it's very windy there. This is a mountain vineyard, and we talk about mountain and valley when we talk about Napa, but I think it's a really important thing to keep in mind when you taste a number of the wines here today. High altitude, a lot of light intensity, shallow soils, steep slopes. I mean, it really adds up to a very distinctive profile, and I think the Raschen epitomizes the mountain nature of our site with all that structure and energy and paired with fruit intensity. So. Enjoy.
Thank you very much. That was great. Any questions on the